Okay, yesterday we started the dinam of Brachos. In other words, we learned that you're not allowed to benefit anything from this world without a bracha. Before you make a bracha, it belongs to Hashem. After you make a bracha, it belongs to us. Like we said, one pasuk says Hashem ha'aretzim loya, Hashem owns the earth. Another pasuk says Shemayim Shemayim L'Hashem v'aretz nasan l'vnei Adam, that the heavens belong to Hashem and the earth belongs to people. So the Gemara answers the differences. Before you make a bracha, it belongs to Hashem. After you make a bracha, then it belongs to us. So therefore, by making a bracha, that gives us permission to be able to eat the food. Now, we also learned yesterday that even though b'diavad you can make a shahakol and anything, but that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to learn the brachos. When there's an argument in halacha, then you make a shahakol. Next is like this. Anything you make a bracha on, whether the bracha is for eating or for smelling, whatever you make a bracha, very many psamim, you're supposed to hold the thing in your right hand at the time of the bracha. If you're left-handed, then you hold it in your left hand, obviously. But you're supposed to hold it in the right hand. That means when you're drinking a cup of water, juice, when you make the shahakol, you hold it in your right hand. It's okay, it's fine. You hold it in your right hand. You eat an apple, you hold it in your right hand. Okay, now, when a person makes a bracha, and they say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam, the halachah is, Okay, stop. You have to know what the end of the bracha is going to be. You can't make Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam, that somebody should tell you what the bracha is. The time you make a bracha, because the main part of the bracha is Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. So when you make the bracha, you have to know what the bracha is going to be. And now what happens if you didn't hold the food in your hand when you made a bracha? So b'diavad you're yaitze, you don't have to make another bracha. Okay, next. When a person makes a bracha, you have to eat right away. You're not allowed to make a separation between the bracha and the eating, unless under certain circumstances. But not only that, but when you make a bracha, and there's another din a lot of people are unaware of, lekavschus. When you make a bracha on an apple, let's say, and you bite it, you take a piece of apple, you're not allowed to talk until you swallow the first bite. You take a sip is much harder, obviously. You're not allowed to talk until you swallow the first sip. If you take a piece of apple, when you swallow that whole piece that you bit into, or the cake, or whatever it is, you're not allowed to talk until you swallow the entire first bite. To the extent, it's not, it sounds funny, but poskim discuss what happens when you have a sucking candy. So you make a shahakol, and you put the sucking candy in your mouth. So when are you allowed to talk? According to this halacha, you shouldn't be allowed to talk until you finish the whole candy. Or if you're chewing gum and you make a shahakal on the gum, you shouldn't be allowed to talk. Okay, but the poskim right, in that case, obviously, when you swallow a little bit of the taste, then you are you're allowed to talk, and you don't have to. But in l'chatchila, you don't talk until you finish eating. Now, what happens if somebody makes a bracha and they talk? Not about the eating, not about the food. I'll give you a simple example of that. Somebody makes a maitzi, and they thought there was salt on the table, and there was no salt on the table. So they make a maitzi, and by mistake, they say, bring the salt. So because that talking has to do with the eating, with what you're eating, you need the salt for the bread, so then, l'chatchil, you're not allowed to do it. To begin with, you're not allowed to do it. But b'diavad, because you're talking pertaining to the eating, so then the din is you don't have to make a new bracha. But if somebody made a bracha, and then they talk things not pertaining to the eating, they say, oh, it's cold outside or whatever, so then the din is you have to actually make a new bracha, because the bracha that you made, because you made a separation between the bracha and the eating, it's not good.
Maybe that's with everything?
No, 1 second. Now, if a person is quiet, even though l'chatchila you shouldn't just remain quiet. You should eat, make a bracha and eat. But if you're remaining quiet, it's not a hefsek, even though it could take some time. I'll give you a simple example of that also. You can make a bracha and you're cutting challah for everybody. So the truth of the matter is, it says in Shulchan Aruch, that when you make, let's say, hamaitzi, Friday night to Shabbos day, right? You have 2 challahs. So you make hamaitzi and the challah. And then you're going to cut. You have 10 people at the table, so you're going to cut 10 slices of challah. The din is, when you cut the first slice, you have to eat a little bit right away. Because there shouldn't be a separation, because you were the one that made the bracha. So you shouldn't have a separation between your bracha and your eating.
How long?
So I tell you, you cut a slice and you right away take a bite of it, and then you continue cutting. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Then you continue cutting the other pieces of bread. What happens if you didn't do that? You didn't do that, but you were quiet. And you made a maitzi, and you cut 10 slices of bread. It took half a minute, whatever it is. But the Yevid, because you didn't talk, you don't have to make a new bracha.
You said that about your dad, about Til Shaddai.
Huh?
You said that he would be the last person to wash until Shaddai because he didn't want to have an abscess.
That has nothing to do with brachos, what we're talking about. That has to do with washing.
The smallest amount of
I understand, but here we're talking about eating. I'm not talking about Natil Yadayim. You're right. It's the same, similar concept. Okay. Now, we also learned that when you make a bracha, because you need to start eating right away, so if you're taking a food that you're going to have to check, make sure there's no worms, or make sure there's no bugs, or make sure anything like that, so then the din is, you have to do all that stuff first. Because you don't want to make a separation between the bracha and eating. In fact, there's an interesting halacha, it's machlekes and poskim, but most opinions say, let's say you have a new fruit. So you have to make a shechianu, and you have to make a bright pre-eitz. A new fruit, a new season. So you have to make shechianu, you have to make a bright pre-eitz. What bracha do you make first? So the Alter Rebbe holds, and a lot of poskim hold, first you make shechianu. Then the bracha bright pre-eitz. Why? Because if you make a break P.O.H. and then the shechianu, you're having a break between the bracha and the eating. So bid the Yeved, if somebody, let's say by mistake, made the bracha first and then said shechianu, they don't have to make a new bracha because again, that's pertaining to the eating. But look at what?
When you say the kiddush, you say shechianu.
Or not only that, you make a break P.O.H. and then you say a whole new bracha. Asher kitchon mitzvayis v'rasabanu or shabacha banu Shabbos Yom Tov. But that's all part of the kiddush. In fact, Hakabi Shammai holds in the Mishnah, first you make kiddush and then you say the brei piagafen. But the halacha like Beis Hillel, that first you make the bracha, brei piagafen, and then make the bracha kiddush. But again, that's not called the separation because it's part of the kiddush. It's actually mamash a part of the kiddush. What?
Somebody made a bracha ha'etz first, so they take a bite, swallow, and then say shechianu?
Al Pidin, what they probably should do is make ha'etz and then make a shechianu and then eat.
Exactly the opposite of what you said.
There's an interesting question that the poskim discuss. What happens if it's on a fast day? Fast day. It's supposed to be fasting. Somebody forgot it's a fast day, and he's about to eat something, and he makes a bracha. Okay, he was going to drink a cup of coffee. He forgot it's a fast day. He gets the coffee ready, and he said, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shakol niyeh b'dvarei, and then he realizes it's a fast day. So what do? So now fast day, the din is you can't eat, so you say Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Leilam Voed. To bracha levatollah. There are poskim that hold though that let's say it's the 9 days when you don't eat meat, but that's a minig, not a din. So there are poskim that hold the argument in halacha. If let's say on the 9 days by mistake you made a bracha on meat, and then you realize it's the 9 days, so then there are poskim that say you should take mamash a tiny bit of the meat, that it shouldn't be a bracha levatollah because it's only a custom, and this is a question of bracha levatollah, which is biblically forbidden mentioning Hashem's name in vain. But by a fast day they paskin, even though fast days are rabbinic, still you don't do it. you make a, whatchamacallit. In fact, there's an interesting question. It's not relevant today because nobody smokes anymore. But do you have to make a bracha on a cigarette? Huh? No. That's another question. Why don't you make a shechiono the first time you smoke? And that answer is because it's always in the bathroom.
No, I think you answered that. Right?
Not anymore, huh?
You said it's not healthy.
What?
You make a bracha on something that's not healthy, like smoke?
So the question is, it's actually, as we know, the halachos, you don't make a bracha. Why don't you make a bracha? What's the question, though? The question is it like tasting something and spitting it out that you don't make a bracha because you're not benefiting? Or is it like something that you smell? And smelling, you do make a bracha even though you don't eat anything. So, but the halacha is you don't make a bracha.
Maybe you make the bracha soref memono biyado.
Serve mono, yeah, that's another thing. Okay, now what happens if somebody, this applies mostly to women or men that cook, you're cooking soup and you want to taste the soup to see if it needs salt or not, or pepper or whatever. So the din is, if you're tasting it and you're spitting it out, then like we said, you don't make a bracha. Because the bracha is on benefiting in the throat and in the stomach. Or if it's something you smell, in the nose. But basically, the bracha is not for just tasting something in your mouth. That itself is not enough to be able to make a bracha.
So why you saying about the cigarettes right now? What you saying?
No, the question is that like smelling or is it like tasting? But again, the halacha is you don't make a bracha on cigarettes.
Why? Because of the health concern?
Huh?
Because of the health reasons?
No, not because of a health reason. The health reason is a different shaila. There's a shaila in contemporary halacha that Moshe Feinstein has tshuvas about it, others have tshuvas about it. Because medically it's proven that smoking is unhealthy. So number one, the shaila is, are you allowed to smoke? Okay, ask all the smokers, they'll find leniencies why you're allowed to. But the shaila is, if somebody asks you for a cigarette, are you allowed to give it to them? Because there's a shaila was called lefnei iver lesitin mirshal. Literally means before a blind man you're not allowed to put a stumbling block. Which the Gemara also says it means you're not allowed to help somebody sin. You can't help somebody sin. So if there's tshuvas written about this already, it's not so simple. They paskin your evil lefnei iver, by the way. That because it's unhealthy to smoke, therefore you're not allowed, it's a sin to smoke. Therefore, if I give somebody a cigarette, so I might be sinning in the sin of lifnei iver l'sitim mirshal. I'm helping a person sin.
The Baal Shem Tov used to smoke a pipe after Shabbos. Where are we going to?
He didn't only smoke after Shabbos. Okay. He smoked during the week also, by the way.
So,
and many great tzaddikim smoked. But that was before medically came out. Before medically came out against it. So then there was nothing. In fact, it's interesting. The people that used to smoke, the great tzaddikim used to smoke, it actually opened their minds. In fact, they tell a story with the Frierdiker Rebbe. Somebody once made a shaila on cigarettes on Pesach. Even today they ask, but let's not get into that. So there was a shaila about cigarettes on Pesach, so he didn't smoke the whole Pesach. Later they found out it was a baba maisa. It wasn't halacha. He regretted retroactively that he didn't smoke. No, but it actually, people that smoke will tell you that. A lot of times it mamish helps you. Okay.